Thank you for joining us. We are broadcasting this live. As soon as Mike mutes it. All right, perfect. We like to put these recordings on our YouTube channel afterwards. So if you say anything during the session, you will be recorded. Standard disclaimer we have to give. So thanks everyone for coming out. I am one of the several organizers of this user group. Besides myself, we have Mike Dixon from Wellington Street Consulting. We have David Losey from Slalom, and we have Jeff Borowski from Insight. And we'll start with a little bit of a recap from last time. So David Losey had a great session last time talking about Office 365 being more than just SharePoint. This video is posted on our YouTube now. If you're interested, please go take a look at any of the links that we have from our social media and check that out. From there, we usually we last met third week of January, and there have been a tremendous amount of updates that Microsoft has released in the last 4 weeks. It's probably 3 or 4 times the normal pace of updates. So we really did our best to boil this down to just about a dozen or less slides, just to give you what we believe is the most important. But we highly recommend that you keep it, pay attention to our Twitter, pay attention to our feeds. We post everything on those feeds. So first thing we want to mention is this is related to SharePoint Online. So there are brand new branding and mega menu features that are starting to roll out. Microsoft announced these at the SharePoint conference at McKnight last year. We're hitting to the point where it's going to start hitting your tenants. So if you have modern sites, if you have hub sites, if you have communication sites, keep an eye out for these, and you could pretty soon take advantage of them. We do share these decks at the end of every session. We also post it on our website. So if you want to, you don't have to take any pictures. We do put links at the bottom of these update slides so you can find more information if you'd like. Microsoft is also making it easier to save into OneDrive or into SharePoint. We've all been in the scenario where we open up Word, we start crafting a document, we try to click save, we want to save it to our OneDrive or our SharePoint site, and there's just not a good way to navigate to where we need to be. Microsoft is updating the experience to default you saving to either OneDrive or SharePoint when you pull up that icon, which in my opinion is going to be a huge time save for day-to-day activities. There's some new features coming to Teams that let us play Big Brother and kind of pay attention to areas, especially when it comes to compliance and other management responsibilities. Previously, if you were not part of the Office 365 group that was behind a team, you had no visibility into the group. And if you had visibility in the group, everybody knew you had visibility into the group. With some of these new supervisor features, we're going to have a little bit more transparency for management to be able to come in and be able to audit things that are happening inside of a Teams channel. There's also some pretty interesting changes coming to Word and PowerPoint. So if I have a Word file that's synced to my OneDrive today, and I go into my Windows Explorer, I double click on the file to open it, there's usually like a 1/2 to 2 second delay before the file opens. Because every time you do this, Microsoft goes up to the cloud, sees if there's a newer version available in the cloud, verifies if there isn't, then it loads it. This introduces a necessary delay in most cases. So Microsoft will now open up the file that you have in your machine directly, and then do the quick sync to make sure you have the latest version. And if not, it'll sync down the changes. Or presumably, if there's a problem, it'll give you a notification for it.
Is it going to be obvious, or is it just all subtly behind the scenes?
So this change is going to be behind the scenes, but just like if you're working in a Word file that somebody else is co-authoring, you have the little sync icon that appears. You probably see that icon moving as this happens. We don't have the exact date for when this is rolling out yet, but I believe it'll be pretty soon.
Has anyone else been seeing sync issues? My folks are using Office 365, using OneDrive, and they're doing it out of their File Explorer, and they're occasionally having sync issues with that. Things are just not showing up. We actually had one, the date showed up as 1969.
Nice.
December 31st, 1969.
All right. We can talk more about that in a later section. So there's also some new features coming into SharePoint Online documents and lists and libraries. One feature, this one I've been asking for and hearing other clients ask for over a decade. This is the ability to check out or check in multiple files in one shot. Well, we're finally getting that, as well as being able to update metadata across multiple items in one shot. There's also a new feature that's being introduced, which is these little icons that will be appearing next to the file names. In these little icons, there's about a dozen or so different icons that Microsoft is introducing. This will reflect whether there's a new file, which is one that you've probably seen already, but they're also adding some flags in terms of if you're missing metadata, or if Microsoft scanned a file and found malware or spyware or other information to notify you before you take action of what the status of that file is. Pretty cool feature, and these are currently being rolled out, so keep an eye out for this in your tenant in any modern list or library.
Is there a list of what the flags are?
If you go to the link at the bottom, it gives a full explanation. There's also the SharePoint Feedback button that was appearing in all modern sites in the bottom right corner. You press the feedback button and you think your IT is getting feedback, but really it was going to Microsoft. So we've had a lot of clients ask us to put in custom code to hide that button. So we're glad to see that Microsoft is now removing that button, and presumably we could add our own button that says, you know, submit feedback to the owner or to IT and so forth.
Is there any word on them either removing or at least putting in a control to remove the get the mobile app button that's right next to it?
I haven't heard about that.
Okay, because that's the next one that's got to go.
So I think,
or at least have an option, you know, give us the option to toggle it on.
So this in particular was really driven through a lot of user voice feedback. For those that are not familiar, user voice is Microsoft's platform to crowdsource ideas and suggestions for all of their products. And it works like a voting system. So somebody can go there, post a suggestion, and then people can vote that, yes, this affects me. I think this is a good idea. And Microsoft actually looks at the items that have the most votes, and that makes it into their backlog. In fact, when they actually look at their backlog of features to work on, a lot of times in parentheses, they'll put how many user voice votes it received. So we've seen some pretty major changes being driven through user voice. So to Mike, to answer your question, if you go on user voice, we can tweet it out. Everyone here can go and upvote the idea, and maybe it'll get added in the near future. So the next thing is kind of cool. So Microsoft Forms has been around for a while, and Microsoft Forms has been pretty basic in nature, but it filled a void of just not having anything at all. It looks like Microsoft is now looking to go after some of the territory that SurveyMonkey and other of the more robust enterprise survey tools have in place. So they're releasing a new product called Forms Pro, and it's going to be in a public preview, which typically means it's free until they figure out all the bugs and until they're ready to bundle it with one of the licensed SKUs or sell it separately. But if you are interested, check it out. There's a link at the bottom of the slide. I'm going to be checking it out just because I see what Forms could do, and I look forward to more of it.
Do you have any idea what it brings to the table as far as new features?
So my understanding is that you have better analytics behind it. I presume you're going to have more ability to have like multi-select options and cascading options. I mean, there's just a lot of things that Forms is lacking today that other tools have.
Yeah.
I expect this will be brought here.
File attachments?
It could be. If anybody wants to sign up for this preview and do a session here explaining all the new features, we would welcome that strongly.
That would be very cool.
Next thing is Clutter for Outlook. So Microsoft confused a lot of people when they released Clutter and Focused Inbox on or around the same time, and different people had different things enabled as they were rolling it out. So Microsoft has decided to retire Clutter, but Focused Inbox is here to stay. That's still the direction that Microsoft is going in. Outlook Mobile now supports Teams meetings. So as we're moving away from Skype for Business and we're moving more into Teams, a lot of times the meeting invitation would have a link to join a Teams meeting. Unfortunately, the Outlook app didn't natively have the capability to spring open the Teams app to get you in there. You still have to go through the browser link, and that could add a few seconds every time you do it. So Microsoft is now rolling out features for iOS and Android to just have it natively go to Teams just like it goes to Skype today. So there's also a new feature that is pretty cool. I think a lot of people will find this useful. If you click on a link that somebody sends you that goes to a file, a Word file, Excel file, PowerPoint file that's in online or SharePoint Online or in OneDrive for Business, today you'll get the online in-browser rendering of that file until you click open or edit in your application. They're introducing the ability where you can select a preference to automatically open that in the full application every time you get a link. So for those that do really complex Excel work or they like to do the review comments in Word that you can't do in the browser version, this could be a huge help to sharing things easily. Speaking of Microsoft Forms, so Microsoft Forms is now available in the government clouds. I know we have some members that are part of government associations, so you too can now take part of the non-pro version. Last but not least, but there's a number of different SharePoint page enhancements that are rolling out. A lot of the existing web parts that have been in place are being improved. We now have more flexibility around the title areas, putting background images, having backgrounds on sections themselves, as well as having the ability to select which image on your page is the thumbnail for that page, as opposed to just grabbing the first one. This just continues along the line of Microsoft offering more capabilities to build basic intranets without having to go down the customization route.
Another one that I saw very related to this, that I haven't seen any announcements about, was inline image cropping. I inserted an image in one of these headers and had the ability to crop it right in the website. It was awesome. Huge time saver. Loved it.
Pretty cool. So, feel a little strange standing here and saying this, but I am wearing my user group hat tonight. So thank you to Turn Digital for sponsoring us. Without sponsors in general, we wouldn't be able to have these groups. They provide not only the venues for us to use, the food to serve during the sessions, but also with our administration costs of running the meetups and everything else that takes little by little to bring together. So thanks to all of our sponsors for sponsoring us. So I'd like to introduce Mike McNett to come and give us our featured talk for the evening.
Thanks, Dimitri. All right, Craig, come on up.
Am I introducing you?
Sure. Let's see here.
This is Michael McNett. My name is Craig Holbrook. I'm with Centric Consulting, and that's us. We've got a pretty good size Office 365 and Microsoft practice. Scott Hull is here, and he is my SharePoint administrator. Whenever I have problems, I ask Scott, but he's a practitioner, is doing some work in biotech right now. We're a pretty good size firm. We do a lot of management consulting, which is business consulting and technology work as well. I think the one thing that I wanted to say is that I had a couple conversations on the break there, but what we're finding with Office 365 anyway is that the technical stuff it's not easy, but it's a lot easier than it used to be. But it's really how do you get people to adopt? And that's where we're seeing more of our practice go, is it's the help on the adoption to get users up the curve in collaboration. And we're finding a lot of clients of ours are spending a lot of money to do that versus put the hardware, the software, enable the cloud at their local business. So we're seeing a lot of that. If you guys want to hear about strategies to help users adopt and begin to collaborate, that's something we can help you with. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, so again, my name is Mike McNett. I've been with Centric Consulting all of 5 months, so pretty new. A little bit of the background for me is I served in the Army Reserves for 4 years, and then the next 25 years and change was active duty. And taught up at West Point a couple different times in computer science. And from about 2005 onward, and I retired in 2012, retired to Columbus, Ohio. But between 2005 and 2012, I devoted a lot of my different efforts in the Army in SharePoint, in automating business processes within the SharePoint platform. So that was my background. I ended up going into another consulting company there in Columbus, Ohio in 2012. Did a variety of different things. I continue to work with a variety of different veterans organizations. But for me, I like getting my hands dirty to the point where I understand the technology at least somewhat. But then the developers, they're the ones who get to do the really good stuff because I can do a lot of spaghetti code. They're the professionals on the code side. But for me, it goes back to Craig's point of trying to help users and help organizations adopt and manage change in the organization when they bring in something like Office 365, or especially the latest and greatest Microsoft Teams, right? Because it changes the organization so much. Where I actually fall within Centric is I'm within the enterprise collaboration team. My focus is on Office 365, but within there on teamwork capabilities. So a lot of my flavor tonight is going to be talking about teamwork, but across our department within Centric, we have a variety of different people that cover these different areas. Security compliance, automation, migrations, deployment, governance, strategy, advising. So it really covers the gamut. But our specialty is definitely in Office 365. What am I actually going to talk about is what you see up here. I actually did throw in something in there for the technical nerds such as myself out in the audience. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit more of the high level areas. I did go through all of your different previous presentations to try to figure out what you've talked about in these user groups specific to Microsoft Teams. So I wanted to make sure I didn't cover the same material. And based on that, it seems like everyone in here may have a decent idea of Teams, but we'll get into that a little bit more deeper shortly. So non-technical is the primary focus. And we also want to take a look at managing resistance and adoption. So in the last 5 months, Centric has submitted two different courses. One was the ProSci Change Management course. Awesome class if you ever get the opportunity to do it. Great investment, I think, in your skills development programs. And then also Microsoft recently has another called Service Adoption. You can get a Service Adoption certification. Pretty straightforward. The ProSci one is very granular. You come away with lots of different artifacts, lots of different processes, things that you can use in your different projects. Service Adoption is a little bit higher level. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about the people in the room. So right now, who's using Teams? Raise your hand. Nice. So about half, iffy. And what's your role in your organizations? Yes. Yeah.
So I'm one of our senior technicians at Harvard Business School. My group supports the faculty and staff. Excuse me. And our group, there's about 16 of us, and we just were overwhelmed with email and needed another solution. So we're trying to use the tools that we'll then be encouraging all of our users to use. So we're just now starting to use Teams, really only use it for a few weeks. I'm in charge of figuring out how we're going to structure the use and best practices and things like that. So we are, and I'm not a Slack user, which I guess is an advantage to some degree. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So this is kind of a new way to work for me and for our team. And we have a wide range from younger 20-somethings to 50-something. We have a pretty good range of techs, but and a range of willingness to adopt. So.
I've been amazed in the last 5 months moving Teams of how much my inbox has shrunk.
We've already seen that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been surprising how successful, even with our just kind of random, let's just try throwing everything into the general channel.
When you're using email, you don't even realize that you're starting to use it as a conversational mode rather than what it was really intended for. You just start sending these things back and forth. So just in 2 weeks, you've seen that change.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Are you using? I think there's an educational pack for.
I think we're like so. I'm not super. I used to know more about our setup, but I want to say like is E3 if that's the.
Yeah. No, there's a special educational pack or something.
Yeah, we have an educational license, but I don't know enough about where
they merged it into E1, so E3s.
Who else? Anybody else want to share a little bit of their experience? Because the other thing that we're going to talk about, not just, are you using Teams, but what are you actually using it for? What's the good and the bad? Anybody want to share? Yeah.
Getting one agency set up in Teams on education, they're just trying to get the pages set up, and they're still the old mindset of SharePoint Classic.
Yeah.
And just trying to get them to bridge these different 365 groups and who should be in what.
Yeah.
There's transparency where they're so used to everything being isolated, private. So just trying to get that to bridge that gap to us has been a challenge.
Yeah, even for me, I know the old classical way of designing information architecture was very higher, and now Microsoft says no, we want you to have flat, and I still can't wrap my head around it. It just seems very unintuitive. Yeah.
So I've read Fred talk about, we haven't really, because my team is, what's the administration of this? What do you do with these channels and so, no, how do you maintain? So that's what we've been facing because we just have all these things.
Have you looked into the archiving capability?
I have not, so there's, we haven't really, we haven't seen a lot from my stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. When I first started working in SharePoint in 2005, a lot of the people would say, a lot of the consultants, Microsoft, they all just turn it on and let people build their sites and let it grow organically. If you lived through the 2000s into the early 2010s, it was a problem, right? Because they had this site sprawl. You didn't have that governance going on. Suddenly you have hundreds, thousands of sites sitting around. What do you do with it? So me personally, I'm afraid of the same thing within Microsoft Teams. They're like, oh, just turn it on and let people build their own teams. And then it comes down to, well, now I have all these teams that are sitting around with old data. But Microsoft is building into it the ability to archive, and then also having a lifecycle around it, so that you can define, you say when a team is created, maybe this one is going to be around for 90 days. At the end of that period, the owner of that gets notification, hey, your team is going to be deleted or archived or whatever your policy is. So they are putting things in place and actually currently have some things in place to help with that.
Okay, I wasn't aware that they had
Yeah.
archiving built in.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing is that,
Yeah.
I just don't want to have this sprawl.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you go into your teams right now, and if you are an owner of one of those teams, you can come in here.
Your share.
Can't see.
Oh, great. I'll share my desktop. Where's my desktop? Well, I guess it won't go to right now. All right, I'll go back to that. So once you're at a team that you own, you can go down here to this gear.
You're good online, but you can't see it on the projector.
Oh, gotcha.
There you go.
There we go.
Yep. Still good online.
So you can come down here, click on that gear, and for any team that you actually own, you can come over here. Let's see, Immersion, I think. And you can archive and delete it right there. So from a manual perspective, you can do it from this interface as long as you're the owner of that team.
As the administrator, can you set policies on it?
At that level, yes, you can specify tenant-wide whether they have that capability.
Any owner computer?
I think so.
Yes, that's good feedback.
Yeah.
That's, by the way, that's for a channel, or that's not for a channel, it's for a
And it's an archive, is a read-only bit?
I'm sorry?
It's archive just turns it to read-only, or?
And then it still shows up, but down in your lower teams floor. But the
So-
content is still there. The conversations are there.
And there are some caveats with that read-only part. A, that's optional. So when you archive it, you'll be prompted, do you want to make it read-only? And B, even if you do say, yes, I want to make it read-only, if you read the context really carefully, it says read-only for members. It's still write access for owners of the group.
So, anybody else that want to share? They're good, they're bad, they're ugly, they're fantastic. Yeah.
From a different perspective, from a
Okay.
tech, I just worked at a recruiting consulting firm. We adopted teams like in end of 2017, so we used it for over a year.
Nice.
And we have distributed workforce both locally and remote, so it helps with that communication. But we have different clients we consult with. Each client set up a team. People work with that client, so those are the team members, and we also track all internal activity well. So we're trying to actually integrate it even more into our day-to-day. We have like if most things are, shared in the old SharePoint file through File Explorer,
Yeah.
that's a mess. And so we're slowly trying to figure everything out, right? So we've seen a lot of the good and bad, and like you said, you were learning it as it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Our biggest problem is we have a lot of existing files in standard SharePoint, and it's really hard to link those back over.
Yeah.
I did it once by accident, and oh, yeah, that happened. I don't know. Okay, let's do this. And so it's,
Yeah, it's growing pains. It's change management, it's adoption. Yeah, but I was just telling somebody out by the pizza that I would rather have this environment where I can get new functionality pretty quickly instead of waiting for my next major upgrade and going from SharePoint 2013 to SharePoint 2016. So with all the warts maybe that you see out there, anybody want to move back to the old way of doing business? No way, no way. And you think about it, this product really has not been around that long. And they continue to evolve. Every month you guys are showing all these new changes. It causes some frustration, but in the end, I think most people, after they start using it, in particular Teams, they don't want to go back to the old way of doing business. I just can't imagine turning off my Teams within our company and suddenly all those capabilities that I had for chat goes into my email, and then I have to use, I don't know, Uber Conference or something. Can be rather painful. So what I want to talk about a couple different tools that might help you as a consultant or somebody in your company to figure out, is one, Microsoft Teams good for you? Two, where might it fit within your company? And three, get people to actually use it. So how many of us have sat in a presentation by company XYZ and they give this great demo and they're clicking through it and you're like, wow, this is phenomenal. And then you start to implement it. And then about a year later, you're still not there, right? And people are just very frustrated. It sure looks nice on that demo and that presentation, but why isn't it working for me the way they were showing? Well, CIE, the Customer Immersion Experience, is a great tool that companies can use. They bring in a partner like Centric, where we're certified to do these customer immersion experience exercises. And it is a hands-on opportunity for that client, that potential customer, that individual to use the tools in Office 365. Who here has used the CIE? Okay, Dimitri has. Your experience, Mike has a little bit. Dimitri, what's your experience with it?
It's a great way to get technology into the hands of people that might not have access to it within their organization.
Yeah.
Or that might have significant hurdles to get started.
Right. Yeah, and when you look at this, so I looked up that, I can't find where an individual can just do it on their own. You can sign up for it, and then I think somebody from Microsoft will contact you to do that. I think that's it. All right. Bottom line is, it's not training, it's not education, it's not a demonstration. It is a hands-on experience, and I'll actually show you an example of the CIE as we roll through this. And from our perspective, a company that brings in the CIE typically will actually get the deal faster, will actually increase the renewal rates. So an organization that I'm working with right now in Michigan, they've had Office 365 for about a year, and they hardly use it at all. We bring in the CIE and let about 10 of their managers start using it. And they're like, oh my gosh, why don't we have this in place today? And then lastly, typically that will result in some more clients coming through as well. But in the end, it is a hands-on experience for each of those users. And the way this typically goes is we'll have a little couple pre-meetings with the company saying, hey, you're looking at Office 365 or you currently have it. Let's talk about your issues. And let's have a time where we can come in. You invite about 10, 12 people to this experience and do it in a classroom, have them bring their laptops or whatever, and walk them through a day in the life of how they currently do business. So typically we'll have a whiteboard up or some butcher paper, and we'll walk them through how they work today in their current environment, current applications. So, you know, what's a typical collaboration problem that all of you see today in different organizations? Where you have a document, maybe that needs
15 versions of the same document.
and how do those 15 versions come about?
Through email.
Yeah, and they just get shuttled around. That is like the #1 use case that whenever we go into a CIE, that's what people talk about. And it is amazing when you send them this link to the CIE environment. That's all it is, it's a link, and it opens up a virtual environment. And they open up Teams and they start working with it. And they're like, oh, this makes sense. No longer am I sending this one attachment around to 5 people, and then it balloons out into 30 different versions. So it's a day in the life. It is how they currently experience technology in collaboration, communication, and then we start adapting our CIE towards what we're hearing in that dialogue with people in the audience. It covers mobile, collaboration, productivity, just about anything you can see within Office 365, it can cover. So if you wanted to do advanced threat protection, if you have, typically they send some security people to the CIEs, and they're like, well, how do you stop, you know, these threats coming in through email, phishing, scamming, things like that. Or how do I find personal identifying information inside of these emails? And how can you automatically classify it? So this CI gives that opportunity and lets the end user actually see what happens. The CIE I'm going to launch here right after this little blurb. It launches and you can do several different types of experiences. So I can launch just one persona. So it's very quick, very rapid, but it's short-lived. But typically I would do a CIE with maybe a CIO or an IT manager or a marketing person to help them see how this one tool or this one platform could help them cover some of their issues. The second one, the instant session 20 personas, that's the one that I typically use working with organizations and getting those 10 to 12 people sitting in the room. There's also another service provided by Microsoft and Microsoft partners called Teamwork Assessment, and that is about a 1 to 2 week engagement that includes the CIE. That is really geared towards organizations that want to use Office 365, but they don't know the way ahead. So it's a short duration engagement that looks at business value propositions, IT roadmap, very short time span, IT roadmap, and then the CIE, a couple other recommendations that go back to that company. Office 365, the CIE environment stays in sync with everything that you get pushed out as well. So it's nothing unique to these environments. Skype and Teams, Teams video. Skype and Teams video, I've yet to really get that to work. I haven't really put a whole lot of effort into it. So there are some limitations there. You're running a virtual machine in a browser. So if you have technical glitches, you may have some issues. And I've had that on a couple opportunities. And then multiple industry specific guides, and I'll show you some of these. So let me launch, I've already launched it in my browser. It really doesn't take, and I gotta change this. Do you see that, or do I need to change it? Okay. Still nothing?
You see in your browser.
You do. That's what I hope. To online, do you see the
big and the small, the snippets enter the.
Does experience the best of Teams meetings.
There we go. Now I see it.
Okay.
We had it.
All right.
You probably duplicate your desktop.
Which one? Yeah.
Windows key.
Yeah, share.
All right. There we go. That better?
Yes.
All right. So the Windows CIE experience within your us as a partner, we have several different accounts out there. I'm using long used Contoso company from Microsoft. But you can set up your own individual ones for different organizations that you're working with. And you have these different experiences over here on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on launch the CIE. I've already done that. And this is what launches. So this is the 20 personas experience. And what happens is I have a URL, a link that I send to all the participants. They click on it and a browser opens that shows this. And then we assign different people to different personas. And that way, when each one clicks on it, each one is going to have their own browser looking into this virtual environment, and they are using the same experience so that can actually use email, they can use Teams, all this in one environment. In addition, there are a variety of different resources to help us, and including this, let's see if I refresh. There's a lot of those industry-specific ones that I mentioned. So as an example, this is a OneNote package that Microsoft bundled together for the healthcare area. And these are some scenarios that we can walk through, but typically, rarely do I use these because I want it to be more of an engaging, free-flowing type experience. So this can help the facilitator themselves. Then there's some technical information and the overall view of it. What happens though, when you click on one of those personas, there we go. So those are all of those different resources available. When you click on one of those personas though, the environment pops up and I might have 10 people that they have their own persona. When they click on Teams as an example, but they could bring up Yammer, they can bring up email or Outlook, and they get the same type of view, but as different people. So inside of this, they have fully built out, in this case, all of these different teams. Some of them have populated the tabs, different channels, documents, and this is just a phenomenal way for people to just start using it. What do you think might happen with somebody who first sees this?
Do they give you scenarios to sort of work out?
They do, but usually we try to build those scenarios in the dialogue. A lot of times they're like, wow, this is a lot. Very busy. So many times what I do is I start with a very brand new Microsoft Teams environment where there's not a team at all. And then we build out the team and have people actually create teams that are in the group and add members and start from scratch. Because it can be overwhelming trying to explain what a team is within Microsoft Teams and all that. Yeah, the wording is kind of, yeah, question.
If you're going to do something like this, your people that you assemble before the company, better to really be in a working team or better to be spread out everywhere? Like if,
Are you asking about how
I'm being very
organized?
articulate tonight. I mean, we all work together all the time in a company, but there are actual groups of people that work together more frequently.
Right.
Do we want them as our 10 to 12 people, those, any one of those type groups,
Oh.
or do we want?
So who to
12
invite
people?
to the CIE?
Yeah.
I typically try to get cross organization, and then I also really try to get the security people in because they're usually the ones who want to get a lot of pushback. Okay.
Do you ever deal with just execs or sort of managers and VPs and that sort of thing?
I've yet to do that. It's very difficult to get time on their schedules, obviously. But they would be some key ones to get for executive assistants. So, yeah, it varies company by company. So, in the other company I was working with up in Michigan, I did a CIE in the beginning and then another one at the tail end of the engagement. Because it was difficult for them to get a lot of people engaged at the beginning. But after a couple months, after people started really talking about it and really interested in it, we had a whole different group of people come in that second time. So offering it a couple times across the board. Yeah, managers, I would say avoid the IT people. Because IT, oh, I'll start clicking away and I'll figure it out, right? But if you can get a senior executive in there to start using this and they start becoming comfortable with it in just a 2-hour session, that's pretty telling. And that's typically what we find with Microsoft Teams at least. Okay. All right, other questions about the CIE itself? And it's a virtual environment and literally people are just using it. And when they want to talk about email, we bring up Outlook. They wanted to talk about security within Outlook and protecting information, we can show. They want to show SharePoint. They have SharePoint sites that are built out as well.
You know, large corporations are using this day to day, part of very large corporations where they use this to engage other departments and
Not the
other
CIE,
agencies.
but the teams themselves.
Yeah, I was thinking the CIE to kind of get.
No, CIE is very narrow. It's meant for getting people to figure out if they want to use Office 365, if they want to invest in Office 365, or how to increase the use of Office 365.
Because I have a lot of agencies that don't want to go to 365. Oh, my file share's fine, my email's fine. So
That would be a
we
perfect.
go into like a 10-person agency and say,
Yes.
you know, we've got this 365 available to you.
Yeah.
Having something like this, I think would be valuable.
Oh yeah, doing a CIE, and that goes back to increasing usage, where you have these pockets of, hey, they're doing great with it, really, they're moving out very well. These other pockets of resistance, though, the CIE could be a way to break down some of that resistance. Okay. Other questions on the CIE? Pretty powerful, even if you need tenant level admin rights, you can get it. So they give you the password, the credentials to log in as an administrator of this tenant. So pretty powerful. And in the end, if you go back to those stats that we mentioned in the slides, it's pretty significant as far as you see it. There we go.
How long does it live for, this CIE?
It can be up to 96 hours. So this one I set up for 24 hours, set it up this morning. But 96 hours is usually the longest, but if you need even for longer period, you can put in a ticket into Microsoft Teams Standard. Okay, yes?
Who initiates or can lead or administer the CIEs?
Microsoft partners that are CIE qualified or certified. So Centric, we have 3 different people that are certified.
And they would lead on site?
Great question. Several different options. As a certified CIE partner, we can actually get Microsoft to send equipment to that location. We can use a site like CC, or we can just go there and they can use their browsers with the URL. So all possibilities. What's that? Equipment too.
What's that?
I don't know laptops I'm at.
Macintosh.
Macintosh. Mobile phones. Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised when I read that in that as an opportunity.
Size requirements for companies?
I think it's 1,000 seats. Could be wrong with that, but I think 1,000 seats is the minimum. But so no, I take that back. So I'll get an answer back.
Okay.
All right. All right. For the technical nerds out in the audience, have any of you used Graph Explorer? You can go to it. Graph Explorer, if you have your, me as a partner, I could get into it. I'm not sure what everybody else can get to, but it's really cool. And in this case, there are some templates that Microsoft has created So right now, if you have Microsoft Teams, you have a team, you're like, hey, I really like that. And I would like to use that as a template, as a foundation for all my other teams that I'm going to build. I can say, create a team based on this other one. But when you do that, the only things that you get are the list of channels and the list of tabs in each channel. But none of them are popular. They're blank. So there's not a whole lot of utility, in my opinion, to them. This gives you the real functionality of Teams. So they have some code sitting out there, and you put this code into this Graph Explorer. You make a couple modifications. You click Go, and this is the code that was copied and pasted. And as he's running it, you're going to see different teams being created. I'm sorry, different channels within the team being created. So now this, he has a team called Taco, 2 channels in it right now, general and sample engineering. And as the code runs, a couple more are going to be added, a couple more are going to be added. And then on top of it, within there, some of the tabs are actually being populated, and some of the channels are also being favorited to all users. So Graph Explorer, in addition to using some of those templates that have been defined, very, very powerful. Now, these templates have a lot of purpose in an organization where you want a standard template. So as an example, if you have a company that has a really nice intranet and it's not going away, to me, it would make sense to have a tab in every channel of my intranet. Populate that tab with the intranet. And that way, those users, I can keep them inside of my team environment for more periods of time. They don't have to keep switching back and forth to a browser, to Teams, to a browser, to Teams. I can keep it all in here, and I can surface their intranet inside of a tab, inside of every one of these channels, or inside the general channel. Okay? So I'd recommend taking a look at these templates. And only in the last month, Microsoft has really put a lot of really good products out there related to healthcare. So if you're in the healthcare industry, they have some nice additions lately, including the integration with some back-end healthcare systems. Yeah.
When I know it's coming to the private channel.
Great question. That question's been going on for probably about the last 12 months or so, yeah. I think it's the most desired functionality in user voice that has yet to be implemented.
A lot.
Yeah, they were supposed to implement it, they promised by December 2018. Never happened, never happened. So this week I found on user voice where somebody from Microsoft said they're actually rolling it out to Microsoft on a test case within their environment. They're going to do some internal testing, so hopefully that means we're moving a little bit closer to private channel.
How long does it usually take?
I have no idea.
Something's internal.
I have no idea. Yeah, I'm sure it depends on the scope of the
Yes, it's not a fixed amount
It's
of
not,
time.
it's not, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's usually 2 months.
Depends on how many glitches they.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of debate, some debate about whether even private channels are good. Me personally, I look forward to it. Private channel would be a big improvement.
It seems like it would be, make administration of sort of permissions much more complex.
That's the conversation we had, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
That's exactly my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be great for users and terrible for those of us that have to administer it.
Or just team owners, right?
Yeah.
I like graphics.
You like what?
It's
It's amazing, isn't it?
Do it properly.
Yeah, Graphics Explorer, yeah, check it out. All right, going back to the question about archiving teams, or what do you do afterwards? Well, the same problem exists at the front end of that life cycle. Who should I allow to create teams? Should I just let anybody? Or maybe in this case, as an example, you could put in a process for approvals. And it's more than just approvals, but upon approval, create a team site, or create a channel, or create just a SharePoint site. So what I created here for another organization is I wanted to enforce a governance policy that said, I'm going to restrict who can create teams and sites until somebody's approved it. And then, so what I have is a list-based project list, and you add a new entry on that list. It's a regular old list. It says, what's the name of your site? What do you want it to be named? What's its purpose? What do you hope its longevity will be? And then, is it internal or external? Yes, successful. And after that happens, they enter it, and approval workflow kicks off. And if I am the approver on these, I would approve it or disapprove it. If I disapprove it, send an email. So this is all just through Microsoft Flow now. Send an email back to the requester saying, no, and here's my comments why. We already have a team set up for that purpose. You're just duplicating that effort as an example. But if it is approved, go ahead and create a site channel and create a project site. So this was just a general use case, and the code actually that supported this took all maybe an hour or so to generate this. It's based on Microsoft approvals and Microsoft Flow. So inside of Microsoft Flow, it kicks off, and I use an HTTP post, and that would actually create the SharePoint site based on the project site. That's the baseline. So it creates that site, but then this is the code inside of Flow to create a channel. And in this case, I said if it an external allowed, create a channel called ext dash whatever the site name was. And then over here, create a channel for int dash whatever. So this was using the assumption that Microsoft was going to get in place private channels. All right. So it's a nice capability. It's not quite the functionality that we really need at that time, but you can use an Azure function to create another team site. Okay. This creates team channels. So within Flow right now, you'll find actions for creating channels, but not creating teams.
If you create a group, you created a team and a site.
If you create a group, you create a group.
No, you're creating a site and a
You
team.
can create a group without creating a site.
That's not what's happening in our tenant. This was happening in our tenant. So we create a group, we're getting a site, and we're getting a team.
If you create an Office 365, I'm sure.
It's 365
Yeah.
group. That's creating a site.
That'll
that's
always
creating
create a
team.
site.
Happening automatically.
Flow,
I don't know.
Yeah, but then you can take those groups and upgrade them to teams.
Yeah.
So for your site, for your team's site approval, is that going to the person's manager? How you have that set now?
What do you want the process to be?
Well, the thing is, if it goes to the manager, they might not be aware that there's another team that's already set up under that. And then it creates the site and puts a 1 after it, after the URL, so you end up.
So in this case, it was one standard approval. Several people within. Bottom line is whatever the organization wants that process to be. What I typically found is the harder part, the technical stuff is actually pretty straightforward. The hard part is for organizations to find what they want that process.
Make business decisions.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Tech is easy, making business decisions.
Yes. So that is just one example, but there's a lot of other areas within Flow and that you could use to enforce governance policies. The archiving piece is another example. So when you did the project request, you think it's only going to be around for 90 days, set up a task at that 90 day or 90 minus 10 or whatever, send out an email to the administrator and to the owner to do whatever. So lots of ways that you can automate some of this. And with Microsoft Flow, it's definitely made things a lot simpler. All right, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. As far as user interface, user experience, training. Go ahead and use Microsoft Teams to do training on Teams. Get the videos out there, use your stream environment, and and use that as the repository. It forces people into the Teams environment, and you can always send links to where that file exists when they have a question about it. Get them used to using Teams by doing that. If you're trying to figure out how to increase adoption, it's always great to find those champions that are out there, but get some highly critical, mission critical, high value areas as long as they're willing to do it. So marketing, they seem to be really popular in organizations, big need, and they have a problem with collaboration. So marketing is a great place to go to if you can get them engaged to using Microsoft Teams and other Office 365 products. Keep the user inside of Teams. So for me, in the morning when I wake up, I always forgot to go to different websites to get different, feeds on what is the latest changes in Office 365 or SharePoint or technology in general. So me, old school person, I like RSS. It works. And you can have your RSS feeds that are useful to your entire team coming into that channel all the time or on a daily basis. So very easy to set up RSS. Again, it keeps them from going back and forth from their browser to Teams to the browser. Keep them there if they really feed off of these different information services. Get your intranet into there if at all possible. Accessing OneDrive and downloads, most people don't know that. That from within Teams you can access that. You know where you get it? You click on the three ellipses, the ... You go to Files, and you see your downloads, which is on your computer, and also your OneDrive. So real quickly on that, I guess. So over there, you click on Files. Nobody's seeing it. So over here on the left-hand side, you click on Files, and you get access to your downloads on your local computer, and then all your files that are up in OneDrive. So a lot of people don't know that. All they work with is Teams and meetings and activity. Most organizations, when they first started setting up Teams, they're like, oh, I can set up all these channels. And after you set them up, only about 25% of them are actually used. So it seems like a good idea because you're organizing all these things and you put in categories or topics around them, but a lot of times they just go unused. So you have things out there that just confuse people. So I've only switched this perception in the last, or this philosophy in the last 2 months. Less is more. All right. So fewer channels, fewer teams where possible, but sometimes you have to. So a lot of places have one channel per project. So that's going to build your list of channels. Yeah.
Is it a good idea to point your files for Teams back to the SharePoint site that maybe a department is using?
So in that case, and that I think I have that on this slide or the next one, talking about cloud storage, where it points back to an authoritative place. So my Teams files is where I do collaboration. Nothing's really authoritative in there. It's not final because usually people are working on these things all the time. But once I get a document to a final version, I want to put that into an authoritative place, which is probably over in SharePoint. So in that case, I add a cloud storage into my files of my different.
So you basically have a Teams file system that is sort of ongoing, temporary play.
Yep.
And then you move this when your final version is done.
Yep.
And move up there.
Yeah. And now Teams has a really nice capability where you can move files. So instead of copying, you can move them to the authoritative.
So it almost gets to that point where it's like, if I archive or if I even delete this site, your responsibility was to move your files back to your original parking site.
Yeah. All right, so some of the limitations. I hate that I can't have links inside of my Teams. You would think you can click on a plus and add a link, and suddenly you have all the teams that are relevant to that team or to that channel. They don't have that capability. So for me, I like creating a list inside of SharePoint, and that list has to be a traditional list. Don't use the promoted links, and then there's the links. Don't use it. Traditional list, and then add a column for the hyperlink type, and manage it that way. And I'm not going to switch over. So, and then surface that within one of the tags. That way they have the links, you can click on it. You can even say, I add a URL or a hyperlink column, but then I also add like a channel column. And that way, when I'm in one channel, I can see those links that are specific to that channel, if you want to go that way. If you have more, several channels. I hate wikis inside of, yeah. I started using it one time for putting my links in, but yeah, it's bad. Sorry, Microsoft. Thanks for letting us use your facility. Yeah. Flat structure of teams. I wish I could group my teams into categories. Project teams or administrative teams. Can't do it. So it's very flat. So this really goes back to the point of, you know, limiting the number of channels that you have out there. Think about your naming conventions, especially those that end up getting stored down in the more area, because by default, I mean, they're going to be in alphabetical order down there. So think about how you name them. You want them by department, closely aligned or close together in those areas. Here was the point about adding that cloud storage. That goes to your authoritative location. Archiving your teams, deleting teams, get rid of junk, get rid of things that aren't being used. Decrease that clutter for your end users. And by doing that, you're going to get rid of some of the frustration.
So do you not recommend the authoritative site behind teams, be it the independent SharePoint site?
The challenge that I find is the group of users that need to do collaboration on documents related to that team are a different group of people than who will consume what is produced from them. So we're working on some documents together. We don't want anybody else to even see it because I don't want to confuse anyone. So I want to keep it just between you and I. But when we're done with it, we're probably going to place it somewhere else where it's more accessible, on an intranet site or something like that. So the general answer to your question is, yeah, typically it's going to be elsewhere. Yes.
If you've got some central administration, can you use the icons to give you some categorization or some grouping, as long as you're very careful about how you do it? I think otherwise the icons are pretty worthless.
So are you talking about the icons for a team?
Yes.
Yeah, I've never actually looked at it that way, but
When you say a similar icon for all your admin team.
yeah, actually that.
It gives you a little hierarchy.
You could like color code them
That'd be
somehow or
interesting,
something.
yeah.
Can you color code?
You can put in.
It's an image, it's whatever you want to do with it.
It's a really cool idea.
I
He's a
gotta
mobile
give
guy.
credit to Scott, because when I asked it, it sounded pretty stupid.
Oh, in that case, yeah, that's a pretty
No, I
stupid.
just know you're on
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that idea. All right, SharePoint metadata, putting a document library inside of Teams is painful. If in all these years, SharePoint or Microsoft said, use metadata columns, get rid of folders, don't use them. Now you pretty much have to. So this is one of the improvements. If you look on the change list for this month, they talk about it. It's the new files experience. It looked like it was supposed to come out this month, but now there's a blurb in there by summer 2019. So it's coming. I can't wait for it to happen. It's it's needed. Yeah, that's what it sounds like when I'm reading through there. So you'll have views. There was something else. So
Sync.
yeah, sync. There was a big one right there.
Yep. Yes.
So a lot of really good opportunities when that happens.
Yeah, 'cause what they're supposed to be doing with that is bringing in the SharePoint document library native to Teams. So in theory, you'll have all of the options that you have when you're looking at the library directly in SharePoint, right there in Teams.
Categorization.
One of the things we learned the hard way
Views.
one of the things we learned the hard way, so when I got to the client I'm at, somebody else was working and setting it up, and he went and took the shared document library and renamed it public documents. Permission it so everybody in the company could see whatever was put into that library, and I started testing Steam doing it.
Yeah.
Change our entire permission structure. So you cannot touch that shared documents library. That becomes the library that Teams uses.
Right. But you can add another one and then point to it. Cloud storage.
Yeah.
That's what I usually do.
I figured that. Oh, I'm only like 2 weeks into testing.
Yeah. Look at cloud storage. Yep.
What about your here?
All right. Couple more slides. Adoption. So right now, Microsoft has their adoption hub out there, and in there they have some really nice links up to some really good resources. So if you're trying to figure out how to increase adoption from start to finish of implementing, deploying Office 365, I'd encourage you to take a look at that location there. Also, easy wins. And with Microsoft Teams, it's easy to find easy wins out there. You just need to find a few champions, spread in some key areas across your organization, get them excited about it, get them involved, spend extra time with them, setting up their team so that they are, extremely pleased with it and they know how to work it, and word goes around very quickly. But somebody's going to be looking over their shoulder and, how did you do that? What do you mean your email box is empty? Oh yeah, because I'm using Teams. So keep an eye out, keep an ear out for parts of your organization that would really help build that momentum. Measuring your overall success. Microsoft has some really good criteria out there, both qualitative and quantitative. And as far as the quantitative side goes, they have some really good report mechanisms out there that you can look at trends across time about how many Office 365 groups are being created, how many teams are being used, how many chats are out there. So it's a great tool out there. You just need to take advantage of it. Last thing is, I mentioned this early on, is this ProSci Change Management course. Microsoft actually contracted to ProSci to do change management. And the course that I went through in November was the last one that Microsoft actually taught, the ProSci course. Kind of weird, isn't it? But it is an amazing course that you can go to. You learn lots of different skills, and you take away from it a lot of valuable artifacts and things that you can use in some of your projects. But it really goes to the point that change management, project management, and leadership and sponsorship are all critical. How many of you say, have a great project manager, and then you don't really have a really strong sponsor? What happens to your project? Scott and I had a conversation about this on the way here. So it really emphasizes that, but more than just emphasizing the need for it, it actually talks about how to get more sponsorship involved and how to get them excited. So ProSci, I'm a huge fan of it. And that graph on the right just basically says, if you have really good change management in place for a project, you're going to be about 6 times more likely, 6 times more successful. Yes.
I completed the service adoption specialist
course that you took as well.
Is there a benefit to me to taking that? Is that a?
I would take this. The service adoption one is pretty good.
Yeah.
But it is very high level, pretty quick. This one was I think a 4-day boot camp, and I learned the entire time. And again, the artifacts that you bring away from it.
So it's not a remote. You can't do it. You can't take it remotely.
It's a certification.
Yeah, very valuable. So lastly, go ahead and take a picture of our QR code. Take the survey, and when you take the survey, we can send you the slide. But really, if you want to talk more about Office 365, how Centric can help you, you can always contact myself. Craig is also located in the local area. Scott is. We have a pretty good sized team here in the Boston area that we can talk a little bit more about Centric offerings as well. Okay. So, questions of me? Yes.
We have one question from an online user, AD. And AD is asking, what is the best way to quickly find earlier conversations that you had inside the team?
What is the best way to find earlier, like old conversations in team? So about the only way that you could do it is within the search. And then when you do the search, you would have to just scroll further back. Yeah, you could filter, just show conversations. Oh, there is the time thing on it. Oh. So saved. Saved conversations. A lot of people don't use that, but it is one of the more valuable ones. So let's see, share desktop.
Yeah, there's a date range.
Okay. I want to make sure I go to one. All right, we'll go here.
Date range.
So I can go. Is it projecting? I can't do anything.
It is working for the online screen.
Of course.
Yeah, you're fine online.
Oh. Let's see. Duplicate. There we go. I think this will do it. That good? All right. So once you have Teams up, you can do activity. And in here, I can look at. So where were you?
Just hit the search first.
Okay. Governance. And then you can do the date range.
Yep. You can also narrow it down more by subject there.
Yeah.
By team,
Or by team channel.
Person.
But that saved capability right here is a nice capability. If you click on saved, and then up in your own personal area, you can click on any bookmarks that you have out there, and it'll show you there. Okay. Other questions?
You have place divide group enable side, the communication side. Can you stop somebody from making the team? Adding teams to it?
I doubt it. They're the owner, they should, or the site collection owner.
Oh, only site collection.
I think it's site collection owner.
So you gotta be an Office 365 or
Yeah,
an Office 365.
yeah, you can turn off site creations at
You have that
tenant
on.
level.
Once
Once it's created,
Yeah.
they can upgrade it.
you can upgrade it. So you don't want communication sites becoming collaboration sites.
Right.
So, you know, I have some SharePoint admins out there that don't know the difference. So I can go in and
Yeah, I don't know if you can set up a special permission that takes that specific.
I had a client who called me up and said, "Is there an undo button?" I was like, "No."
Wow.
There is a no-go back.
Yes.
The experience with external guests on the team, I've got like two.
Yeah.
And they've abandoned it.
They've abandoned it? Why?
I mean, they're not liking it.
So that was our main event. Now for some upcoming community events. We've got a few more things to go through, and then we have a raffle. So stick around. Good stuff to be had. So some upcoming events. We have in May the SharePoint conference at the MGM Grand in Vegas. Anybody going to Vegas? If you're going to be in Vegas, you know, why not catch a SharePoint convention? Also, SP TechCon Boston has been announced for August 2019. Anybody know, is there a open call for speakers for that yet?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything come across yet.
All right.
The reason we put this on the slide today is because it costs money a lot of times.
Yeah, start planning.
Put your budget request in early.
By the way, for those of you that want to go or
think that it could be cool if you've never been. I do highly recommend it. This is my favorite conference of all of them, largely because it's not hosted by Microsoft, so it's not a sales pitch. It's like real world consultants that have to deal with this stuff every day. So you get some really practical, like, Microsoft says it does this, and this is the reality of it and how you make it actually do that. So I think there's some really good stuff there. Also, their website has a great page called How to Convince My Boss to Let Me Go. It is fantastic. I highly recommend it. They have like actual scripts that you can pull down. It's awesome. Good stuff. So great stuff. Are we missing anything? Any other conferences, Office 365, cool educational events coming up? European Collaboration Conference? Okay. Are they streaming? Do you know if they're streaming, Deb?
I don't know.
Okay.
One more to add to the list.
Yeah.
SharePoint Saturday in New York City is going to be the last weekend.
Oh, cool.
They've already started advertising it, so keep an eye out for a call.
Awesome. All right. Some of our sister groups. We've got the Boston Azure group, the Skype for Business, New England Skype for Business group. There's now a Power BI user group. I don't know if that's new or just new to us, but I think that's very cool that there's a Power BI group local. SharePoint group, the Hartford Office 365, and the Granite State SPUG. And coming up. Oh. All right. Office 365 security and extranets will be next week. That's going to be at this same location. So I was just talking about using extranets for Office 365 and Teams. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. So next month you can swing by and hear Scott explain how to do it safely. Seems like a good idea. Good topic. All right. So now this is the part where we get to turn it over to you. And you guys get to ask us any of the questions that have made you slam your head against the wall or desk or whatever's nearby and scream, God damn it, I hate SharePoint. Why did I commit myself to this life? Because, you know, we've all been there. Anybody? Any cool questions? Yeah. Yeah.
I just remove it. Is there a way to disable it without physical? I just remove it.
Not that I know of, but what I was referring to is the fact that you can remove it is relatively new. When they first rolled that out, you were stuck with that tab as much as it sucked, and you couldn't get rid of it. So that, unfortunately, is what's new. Yeah.
I noticed the phrase feature now, but
In Teams?
in Teams.
Really? Praises in Teams? Oh, that's cool.
With the little icons.
Nice. All right, that's great to know. I was not aware of that. Anybody else? Any cool discoveries?
So I discovered today, trying to figure out how to make a second page. So I'm figuring out how to make libraries in this. I finally figured out how to make a task list. You just basically do a content type to task and go and make a task list. Pretty odd. There's no page, create a page library. Created a document library and I changed the content type to equal content type. Then I attempted to do my first page because I wanted to do a news page, a separate set of news pages to make an FAQ, and it wouldn't let me save anything. You could tell me somebody else was saving, and then close it and reopen the page up, it would duplicate what my home page looked like.
You tried
this a couple of times and then finally I blew it up.
Yeah, okay. You tried to game the system, Deb.
Tried to game the system.
The system fought back.
So what I'm doing instead to do my FAQ is setting up my news filter. I'm using for FAQ and all of my news features for FAQ. Yeah. And then I'm going to have to do all of our IT news with IT in the title so we can filter that way.
You don't have to do that by title. You can do metadata.
I do metadata.
You can do metadata.
I haven't
Yep.
gotten that far yet.
Yep. Yeah, a couple of months ago, they rolled out metadata, so it should be in all of the,
Available in the news feature filter.
There.
Also is title.
it's there. Yep, good stuff. Yeah, because I've run into a similar thing where I wanted to do that.
Library, it's gonna become a mess.
Yep. Yes, it is. So the other one that I actually have one for this section, is the Teams only coexistence mode has finally dropped. So in the Microsoft Teams admin console, Microsoft documentation has advertised 3 options for the drop down for coexistence forever, but they only pushed out 2. And those 2 were Skype for Business only and Island mode. Island mode meant if you initiated a chat in Skype for Business, then it went to the other person's Skype for Business. If you initiated it in Teams, it went to the other person's Teams. That was supposed to work. It was very glitchy. But they now finally have a Teams only mode, which pushes everything to Teams, whether they initiated it from Skype for Business or Teams. And also for those of us that are using the PSTN dialing, all of our phone calls now get routed directly into the Teams app, which is fantastic because the Teams app on mobile is way better. So that was a big life-changing thing for employees over at Wellington Street Consulting. So that's been awesome. Yes. It's amazing that you ask that. Bill and I were actually just testing out live meetings earlier today, expressly for the purpose of doing this session. So we've been looking at it for doing this session, and it's very interesting, but not quite there yet. Is kind of the conclusion we came to. It's got some really nice capabilities, and it's actually got security much more locked down than, say, a regular Teams meeting. But it requires all presenters to be internal to your company, which is why we can't use it here, because that's never ever going to happen here unless it's just me presenting. And it also, what were the other ones we ran it? Oh, you can't promote anybody to presenter or producer once the meeting starts. So you have to know everyone who might present before you start the meeting. And also, if you want somebody who is a presenter to have production capabilities, you can't upgrade those once the meeting starts either. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. That was weird too. So it's there. It's very cool. I would recommend it. It seems like it would be great for people doing internal meetings. So if you're doing internal and like your CEO, yeah, exactly. It would be perfect for internal town halls, you know, and also it'd probably be perfect for doing large scale external stuff, as long as you know everybody that's presenting is internal to your company, you know. So if you 2 guys wanted to do a webcast for Centric, it would be great for that, you know.
No delay.
Yes, but that's intentional. And because they actually warned me about that as a producer, all attendees will have a 10 to 20 second delay. It really is.
It says preview.
Yes, it is in preview. So yeah, it's a great space to watch. I'm very hopeful of its potential coming forward. Okay. Based on my testing today, I'd feel that that's a little too soon, but okay.
Do you have any idea if Teams is going to be, we're using Zoom?
Yeah.
We're using chat.
Yeah.
So the question is, how much can we?
So I've actually done an in-depth analysis on that exact thing because I have a client that's using it. For the most part, you can do a 1-for-1 matchup with Zoom with one exception, and that is breakouts. So in Zoom, you can do breakouts where you have multiple members. It's really good for like academic sessions. So I'm actually attending a class that's being presented by one of my clients, and he does breakout sessions where he groups like 3 people. You know, everybody break out into groups of 3, and for the online people, he'll put them in groups of 3. Teams has nothing like that. Skype has nothing like that. I mean, even GoToMeeting, as far as I know, doesn't have anything like that. It seems to be a very unique feature to Zoom. Unless anybody knows of another platform that has that, I wasn't able to find one, but it's pretty slick and it's one that they use very heavily. But I also think that that's relatively unique. So if there's a, you know, most companies I don't think would do that outside of an academic setting. So
Zoom rooms. First time I've seen is tablets.
Mhm.
Tablet in,
Yep.
Name one for one.
That in particular, I'm not sure. Skype for Business Rooms would be the closest thing there, and they just recently transitioned that to Teams conference rooms. I don't have any experience with that, so I can't speak to that authoritatively. I'm guessing because they just recently announced that transition that there's probably some stuff that's missing, but on the Skype for Business side, it was very, very developed and very close to that kind of capabilities. Yes. No, I don't think so. I think they're just looking to come up with a premium product that adds some extra beef behind it. I don't think they'll stop working on forms. So, any other questions? Ahas, wonderful gotchas. Okay. Yeah, I told you guys my other one was that in field cropping for images. I thought that was fantastic. So, yeah.
Reminder, but you can name a channel. You can period thing right before the channel name. You can put an icon. So if you have
Oh,
a
yeah?
bunch of channels, you can kind of like.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Period, and then you put in icon, smiley face or whatever. Face channel.
So when you do
can't
Windows
do,
period, does it pop up with like a window to select an
Yeah.
able?
You can't do the general, you can't rename general channel.
Yes. Yeah,
Any
we
other
know about
channel,
that.
you can put an icon. Kind of, if you have a lot of channels, you can.
Cool. Good tip. I like that one. All right. So once again, we're going to give a huge thanks to Turn Digital for supplying the grub and paying our bills. Thank you, guys. And then, do we have tickets? We don't have tickets. So we're winging it with questions. This is the real reason you wanted me to close out the session, isn't it? All right, I see how it is. All right. Mr. Mike, do you have any trivia questions that you can think of based on the content, things that you went over in your presentation that we can ask our audience? And I will ask that the audience members raise their hand so we don't have to come up with extra questions. So the question is, everybody needs to raise their hands. What does CIE stand for? Yes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. Excellent. Pick a gift card, any gift card. One from WSC is the best. Just saying. Slalom? All right. Very good. Do you have a business card or just an email address that you can leave with Dimitri or myself before you leave? Make sure you guys get that. Mr. Mike.
Getting covered in this.
This is going to be particularly hard.
How many?
Oh yeah, I saw that update. Yeah, it just changed. They just updated the number of users that are allowed to be in a team. Who knows it? You, sir. 5,000?
2,500 to 5,000. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I'm an update behind then. I thought it went from 250 to
The other day.
2,500. Okay, all right, cool, excellent. Pick a card, sir. Who would you like to get your 25 bucks from? Yes. So, yep, see Dimitri about that. One more. You guys saved the best one for last.